and welcome to the world of cinematics. Today we're going to be continuing our countdown for the June 1982 films with our review of Poltergeist. But first we wanted to do a quick catch-up with the Kenobi series. So in the latest episode, episode 4, we see Kenobi going after Princess Leia once again, just like in episode 2. However, we get some more Jedi shenanigans, starting with him swimming with the little breather that we see in episode 1. Not to mention some lightsaber shenanigans as well, which I really enjoyed. Overall, my impression of Kenobi as a whole, I'd say positive so far. There are a lot of people trying to bring it down and say this is terrible, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to Star Wars. I actually read an article that said Kenobi series is worse in ways that The Last Jedi never could have been, and it's worse than The Last Jedi and all these things. I don't agree with that. I still think The Last Jedi is bad, but I don't think that Kenobi is anywhere near that, and I don't think anybody here would agree with that it's bad in generally speaking. You know, whether The Last Jedi is good or not is personal preference, but I don't think that anyone here would say Kenobi is the worst thing that ever happened to Star Wars.
No, far from it. I am very much liking the series so far. I think I'm more positive than you, Stefan, but it's still not like, oh my gosh, this is blowing my mind. This is everything I've ever wanted Star Wars to be. That being said, I kind of hated this last episode. There are a few good things in it, like the lightsaber scene you're talking about. I really like. There's a moment with Vader at the end that I loved. Everything else, I'm just like, oh gosh, please not this again. My first reaction after watching it for the first time was, maybe I've been a bit too harsh on The Force Awakens. It deserves a lot more credit as a very good copy of A New Hope. Because this was a very bad copy of A New Hope to me. It's, the princess has been captured, we need to break into a place, dress up as Imperials, to get her, oh gosh, we've been caught, we need to escape. Oh no, we lost somebody in our escape plan, but it's okay, we made it out of there alive. And there were a lot of, I'm sneaking somebody out, and so I'm hiding them under my trench coat. As soldiers looking for me and the person I'm hiding under my trench coat, let me walk right past. There's a lot of dumb things like that.
My favorite dumb thing is when you have the two stormtroopers sitting there guarding her, and you see a lightsaber. And it wasn't like a quick stab motion.
No, it wasn't like, and then gone.
Yeah, it was like, bam, bam, turn off lightsaber.
I really liked a lot of that scene, but yeah, that for those of you who haven't seen, it's a dark room. Leia, a young Princess Leia, is strapped down in this interrogation chair, about to be tortured. All you can see is little bits of red light glowing from the floor as two stormtroopers flank her, one on each side. Then a lightsaber turns on, hits the stormtrooper actually quite a few times before he goes down and
about
dies.
2 or 3 times.
Yeah, so that was weird, but then it turns off. And the other one, I don't know, don't move! I'm gonna, and then before he gets killed too. I like that, just moving in and out of the shadows like a ninja. That was cool, but wow, that lightsaber was powered down, and wow, those stormtroopers were dumb.
Well, no, that's my thing, is the stormtrooper was really dumb. Like, why? His friend's getting over there beating up, 3 strikes is not a quick strike, so it's a quick, oh, hey, I better shoot over there. My guy's already dead.
Well, Disney has had a problem with lightsabers, just generally speaking. I think from the get-go, for one thing, we only see one stormtrooper ever get killed with a lightsaber in the sequel trilogy, and he gets stabbed. Versus all the Red Guards, they're never cut in pieces. They're always just glanced. Now, some of their armor blocks.
Some of them, there was one who got his head cut in half, but it wasn't exactly focused on, because that'd be pretty gruesome.
I remember a guy getting cut across the throat and his head didn't fall off, and that confused me a little bit. So I think it's just something Disney doesn't. I don't think they understand how lightsabers work unless your hand is out here and they chop it off, or Snoke. That was great.
Yeah,
that was a great scene.
The Red Troopers, they did, if you read extra material, this is lightsaber resistant, plasma fields or whatever. Okay, sure, it's just to make it a little less gruesome when they die.
But what's with the stormtroopers?
Yeah, they're not wearing special armor.
So
that's expensive.
Either they don't get it, or they don't explain things very well. Because technically, we've never seen a stormtrooper hit by a lightsaber. But we've seen them hit by blasts.
Yeah.
It's
I don't think it's an issue of them not getting it, because most of the time when they're in a situation like that, they go to great care to explain why. It's just, maybe not immediately apparent. But they are taking great care. It's like, okay, most lightsaber deaths in reality would be incredibly graphic. And we're Disney. We have a family-friendly image to behold. So we will jump through hoops so that most of the time when somebody's killed by a lightsaber, it's okay. They're just asleep now.
Whereas it's like episode 3, you have a lightsaber literally this big go through the heads of 2 guys.
Right.
And when they killed the clone troopers, it's like, oh yeah, these guys are obviously dead. Took 1 hit. Whereas the stormtroopers are, like you said, 2 or 3 times. It's like, is this Jedi Fallen Order? Is this a video game?
Yeah, it's like you see a health bar above them. It's like a low level.
He needs to take some more damage or whatever, and you whack him. For me, it's the opposite of what. Well, not necessarily the opposite. My take on the whole series as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
You say, oh, this episode is a bad take on A New Hope, and it's like, okay, sure. I see it as, for me, I'm like, this is the good take on the Luke Skywalker arc for The Last Jedi, because it's like, it doesn't take 2 hours for him to do something productive and to have, and people are trying to make Obi-Wan out to be a coward, and I'm like, that's not true. Cowardice is where you do nothing because of the fear. He is moving forward with the fear, the anxiety, and the depression. That's the very definition of bravery. You may not be able to perform like you used to. Like, anyone here who's, we've all served a mission, right? And we look back and we're like, man, I'm not able to go forward like I did as a missionary. Maybe I don't exercise as much faith as I did, but I'm still going to go forward. I'm still going to try, even though I have whatever anxieties that we all might have, or depressions or fears or whatever. That's the definition of, in my opinion, of bravery. And for Obi-Wan, just watching him moving forward and slowly progressing, like first 2 episodes, no lightsaber, hardly any force. Then 3rd episode, he pulls out the lightsaber, but it does him no good. He's overwhelmed. Versus this one, where it's like, okay, we've taken it down to a level where
he's getting back into the groove.
He get into the groove a little bit. He can put on the uniform, the tunic.
He almost does an Obi-Wan lightsaber twirl.
Yeah. And so it's just, and that was always my problem with Luke. I was like, why does it take 2 hours for him to, make a meaningful? You can have those internal conflicts. I understand that.
Right.
But you can. Having him be a part of Rey's journey, kind of like Obi-Wan and Leia, I'm like, that's kind of what I want. It's like, we can be a part of this together versus, oh no, it's just about you and your relationship to the bad guy.
Right.
Versus your relationship to how are you going to help me move forward, and how can I help you move forward?
Right. That's one of the things that has been a boon of Kenobi, is just the extra runtime of it being a TV show. Now, especially after watching this last episode, I do think it would have been served overall better as a movie, just in terms of the pacing, because the pacing's been really uneven. But an advantage of it being a TV show, because, while I really liked Luke in The Last Jedi, your problems with it, 2 hours of him being mopey out of a 2.5 hour movie, that's quite a way through. Kenobi's spent almost 2 hours as well, but it's 2 hours out of a 6 hour experience.
Right.
So it's a lot easier to bear.
Yeah. And he's given also more time to be proactive in the film.
Yeah, he's hiding for the first hour and then going out in spite of his fear, whereas Luke is hiding the whole movie till the end.
Yeah, to the very end, and then by virtue of showing up, he must die afterwards, and I don't like that. So
now, one other thing that bugged me about this episode. So, Inquisitors, their whole job is to hunt down Force sensitives, whether they're Jedi who survived, or whether they're, like young children strong with the Force that can be recruited. That is their only job. Now, I get, like, hey, if I'm, strong with the Force and I'm reading someone's mind, maybe I can't sense that they're, Force sensitive. Maybe they're just, they have a really strong mind, or they're in a species that's resistant to, like, the mind trick, like, like a Toydarian or a Hutt. But when your job is to find people strong with the Force, and you are reading the mind of a young Princess Leia, one of the most powerful Force users ever, I'm reading it. Wow, you're strong. Never realizes, oh yeah, you're strong with the Force. It's just, oh yeah, you're a cool girl. That was a bit much for me.
Well, we have to remember these are the same clowns who. There were 3 of them.
Yeah.
One guy and a canopy stopped them from pursuing that guy and capturing him immediately.
Yeah, the Inquisitors generally, in this and in other media, have generally shown to be almost laughably incompetent. But Reva was a rare exception to that. Reva and I think the second sister, a little bit of the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah, definitely Inquisitor.
And oh my gosh, that was laughable.
Yeah, I think Reva's problem is that she overcompensates a lot.
Yeah.
And so
she's so hung up on getting Kenobi.
Right.
Yeah, and she's kind of arrogant, so I don't know what her excuse is for
she
not
kind of
being
acts like a Anakin would had Anakin not got his limbs chopped off and been burned up. Still just as headstrong and arrogant and angry.
Because the difference is that Anakin's anger is, like we talked about a while back ago, self-loathing.
Yeah.
Hers is just like, I'm angry because I'm not getting what I want.
Mm-hmm.
It's that stubborn anger.
There was a little bit of that in episode 2 with Anakin, but
I'm not saying it's against Anakin.
Yeah, but then there was a whole movie of development to change him, and then also getting his legs chopped off and being horribly scarred.
Yeah. I don't know what her excuse is for not knowing. This isn't obviously she's resisting you. Like, you want to delve into that further? No, let's torture her. It's like Kylo had the right idea. He figured it out in Force Awakens. I will give credit where credit is due. But Reva, she's just sort of like, oh, she is strong with the Force, but I won't tell anybody.
I didn't like this episode. I do think they can recover. It's like, this is significant in that, it's only a 6-part series, and even if the next 2 episodes are stellar, there's still a whole episode, a whole 6th of it that I really hated. And so for me, if the rest of the series is amazing, if it was going to be an A+, this at least takes it down to an A- for me. But I don't know. We'll see what the next few episodes have in store.
Yeah. I was just glad to see, even if it was sloppily done, just glad to see Jedi shenanigans with lightsabers, because they have this trend of just having Jedis use guns, and I get that to a certain extent, but it's like, let them use lightsabers. Lightsabers are
Let them be civilized.
Let them be civilized.
A more elegant weapon.
Yes.
Of course. All right. Unless there's any other thoughts, I think we should move on to Poltergeist. Now, Robert, you have not seen Poltergeist. What were your initial thoughts of Poltergeist? He liked it.
I did enjoy it. It was fun. I liked it. Thankfully, it's not like the modern day horror movies where it's like, no, someone has to die. Yes, there's got to be blood and gore everywhere.
Which there is a little bit of blood.
There is a little bit of blood, but it's not like glorified. Hey, imagine this unhuman amounts of blood coming.
It's not a splatterfest.
Yeah, it's not a splatterfest. So it's not zombies. But I did enjoy it. I really enjoyed the little exorcist woman.
Yeah, we'll touch on Glinda, right? She sounds like she's from the Wizard of Oz. She looks like she's from the Wizard of Oz.
Lollipop Guild or something.
I don't think it really needs to be said on the channel, but I might as well say it anyways. Certain voices make me laugh.
Yeah, this was an issue with the Batman.
The Batman, you got the Commissioner and the Chief.
Yeah, the Chief is like, oh, listen to me, how dare you accuse of this? He sounds like he's this guy up here. He sounds like he's the Godfather.
Happy freaking Halloween.
It's so dumb. I freaking love it. So voices will change any movie for me if it's really funny. Like, if it's supposed to be a serious, heartfelt moment, and you come in talking like this, I'm going to start laughing.
Or if you're a lady who's 4'8" and you sound like this.
You sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Like, I was waiting for her to start singing. I was waiting for the circle of,
See,
and then Mr. Incredible over there.
See, I'm always ready because she has this great line in the movie, like, are you ready to do anything that would violate what you feel is right as a human, as a mother, and as a Christian? And yes, I am. I'm just waiting for her to turn around, repeat after me, Hail Satan. I'm waiting for a heel turn from her, and a heel turn is teased. But it's always just, it's a misunderstanding. I do know better, and so it's I buy it. But I'm always waiting for that over the top comedic. Oh, I'm evil.
Cthulhu, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's kind of what I was getting from when she was looking at the portal.
Yeah.
And she's like yelling down towards the portal.
Go into the light.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness. This little munchkin is guilty. Guilty, I say, guilty.
All right, so Kevin, for those of you who don't know, this is our good friend Kevin here. He goes to church with us. Now, you're not a fan of horror movies, at all, right?
It's not what I look for in a movie, no.
Sure. With that said, what did you think of this movie?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah?
But not for the horror elements.
Yeah.
It seemed to me like a comedy.
It's a lot funnier than most horror movies because this is not a horror comedy, but it's kind of like Christopher Nolan sometimes is very serious and dour, but other times he recognizes, sometimes in life people just say funny things.
Yep.
And so this is not like it's a comedy, but these are human beings that are close with each other. They have a good sense of humor, so every once in a while they're going to say something or do something that's kind of funny. Like this house we're not sure this house is haunted. Mug immediately. What I mean to say is,
or when his boss or something.
Yeah.
The boss was there looking at the TV. He's like, "Oh, you got something wrong with your cable?" And he turns him around, and you see the piano starts moving.
You've never done this before.
Or
neither of you. You're right,
or even there's plenty of funny stuff to laugh at in this movie. Like when she puts the helmet on the daughter's head and says, "Sorry, sit there."
Oh yes.
I'm like, who does that with their daughter?
Where did she get the helmet from anyway? It's like
probably the dad.
Yeah, it's like extraterrestrial stuff. I'm gonna throw a helmet on my daughter and see if it'll throw her.
Because I totally get. Hey, we've marked on the floor with markers and tape. This is where it starts. And then it's dragged along the floor. Okay, honey, watch. I'm going to put a chair down. Moves on its own. Okay, I get that. But then, okay, let's throw our 5-year-old daughter in there. What could happen?
He's like, look, please.
And it's like, all right, remember to catch. And then afterwards, she's like, my butt hurts.
Sorry, honey. We'll put more wax on the floor. Like, how long have you been doing this, woman?
And she keeps the poor daughter's like, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I want pepperoni pizza.
Well, and even
maybe the poltergeist will order food for you.
I even love the look on the husband's face when he walked in. He was like, I've had a long, stressful day at work.
Yeah.
And his wife is like, you got to check this out. He's like, what?
But then after he sees it, just that look of,
what?
Like, he's an older man at this point. He's in his 70s or 80s, but he was kind of perfect, typecasting for Mr. Incredible later. He voices Mr. Incredible, and he looks a lot like the young Craig T. Robinson. And not just, he looks like him physically. His mannerisms of just, well, why can't we just do this? And okay.
Yeah, it's very, very, a lot of motion in talk.
Yes. Not like Italian, I move my hands around. I'm big, I'm theatrical.
A lot of gesturing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I like how you actually kind of see the transition to where he's just kind of giving up on things.
Yeah.
But it still has that little side bit of comedy to it. I actually did find it kind of funny at the very end. I already put a spoiler warning up, so if you didn't catch that warning, what are you doing? But when he shows up back at the house and everything's going crazy, he's like, and he sees all the dead bodies, and he grabs his boss like, "You idiot! You just moved the graves!" And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds right. All right, if I were him, I would have grabbed him and threw him in the house.
Throw him in one of the coffins and
boom, doom on you." And I gotta say, I love this about some of these kind of older horror movies. The stupid common sense out the window. The girl gets home and she just starts screaming.
What's happening?
And then he pulls over and he's like, "Get in the car!" She's still screaming. It's like, get in the car.
It's not the brightest of the bunch.
I don't know about you. Have you ever been scared as a kid and you thought and just stood there and stayed around?
Yeah.
No, I ran. I was like, screw this.
Well, there's 3 reactions to fear. One is to get out of there. One is to fight and do something, and the third is to just freeze. Fight or flight. There's also freeze.
Yeah.
And I have to say that the oldest daughter is the source of some of my favorite comedic moments in it, because it's always just things that'll sneak under the radar. Like, oh my gosh, we're moving, we need to get out of here. We're just gonna stay down to the motel down by the freeway. It's like, oh, I know that place. What'd you say? Oh, nothing. Just move on.
Is that a gray hair in your head?
She got like a hickey at the end of the film on the right side of her neck.
Yep.
She's like, what's happening? I was like, holy crow, she's got a hickey. What have you...
I can't crack that joke on YouTube.
Yeah.
But the attention to detail is there. And you can see it in, like, there's some things where the detail is, like, they ignore it because they know that your imagination can fill it in. Like, with some of the CG is, like, very basic.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
But then there's other things that are attention to detail, like the... Like, fight when she's in her bedroom with the phone. And, like, that's very time period appropriate, too, to be, like, holding the phone in her bed.
Yeah. This is, I mean, it's a scary movie, but it's PG. There is nothing in this movie that I would feel uncomfortable showing to a child. Maybe not like a 3 or 4 year old, but, like, I'd show this to, like, a 6, 7, 8 year old. Give them a blanket if they want to cover their eyes, sure. But... Okay, there's some controversy. People are unsure whether the director really did direct this movie or not. Some people say it was the producer, Steven Spielberg. But Tobe Hooper, he also directed the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. When he directed that, before he sent it off to the ratings board, he thought it was going to be rated PG. Because in that movie, even though it's one of the scariest movies ever made, you don't see the violence. You don't see the horror. It's what you don't see that's scarier. And so that very much is the guiding principle of this movie. You see a few ghosts and spectral things, but for the most part, the scariest thing in this movie is the disembodied voice of a little girl screaming out for help, and you can't see what she's afraid of.
And the fact that, I mean, you see the fear in everyone else's face as well.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know what's going on either. They can't see anything. And the fact you never see what's going on in there.
I mean, you get a few glimpses towards the third act when certain things start spilling over from this other plane of existence. Some of it looks a little goofy, but in the moment, you buy it. Like a giant skull face or a spectral giant horse dog thing. It looks a little goofy out of context, and even in context, you're like, okay, that's kind of spooky. I mean, it's kind of silly, too, but I buy it. Okay, let's go.
I think the spookiest thing for me was probably his face.
Yeah.
And it helps with sound design. Sound design is what's sold it the most.
It's so wet.
Yeah.
Ugh. The way you said wet is wrong.
The funny thing about the face pulling is, you thought Spielberg did everything you could with the face in 81 in Raiders of the Lost Ark. You had a shriveled face, and then you had the melting face, my personal favorite. Then you had a head blow up. Now you had a guy literally peeling his face.
And the rotting flesh falling down, bits of the jawbone falling out.
It slowly happened, too. Like, you would see a glimpse of red down the bottom, and then it looked like his face got dehydrated more. And then you look down again, and you start seeing things falling. And just like the back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, just the level of detail, how they actually put like a skull inside of that would be fragmented and held up with the different jellies and stuff. My favorite detail as the face is pulling apart, as he's clawing at it, is how the eye stays up, but then it starts to sag and then fall out of its socket. It's wonderful, but never overly gory or graphic.
Funny thing is, those are Steven Spielberg's hands actually doing the face pulling stuff. He's
really?
I want to do it. He's like, I know. And he starts pulling all those bits and pieces
exactly
out.
what I want to see on the camera.
And the thing about those old-timey special effects with all of those faces, if you get sort of used to it, especially as you're older, you're like, oh, it's not too bad. But if you woke up late at night and you saw that in your window, and you saw the melting face, or you saw the peeling face,
or that tree,
or
the original Whomping Willow.
If you saw any of that, even an adult would be like, oh my gosh.
Or that freaking clown.
That clown! That thing's terrifying. I see why Steven Crowder tweets late at night. Can't sleep. Clowns will eat me.
Uh-huh.
I know what. But that kid was a boss.
He sold it. Yeah.
He took on that.
Started tearing it apart. You murderer! I hate you.
He's like, you stupid clown. He became Batman before Batman became Batman.
Yeah.
He finally
Beating
got
up
fed
clowns
up
before
with
them.
it.
You think that kid became the Joker? He's like, why do I got these scars?
I hope so.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 is when he gets a rematch with the tree and he has a chainsaw. I hate you! I hate you! I hate
He
you!
cuts down all the trees and all the trees are running away from him.
I gotta say, it's kind of a good thing that the camera didn't show, the dad rescuing the kid out of the tree, just him being in danger and then the dad climbing up it, and then you later see him climbing down with the kid, because that kid was almost completely enveloped. Yeah, falling down. That kid was almost completely enveloped inside the trunk of that tree. There's no way the dad is going to be able to tear the tree apart with his bare hands and pull him out of there.
Yeah.
That kid was dead.
That's
Can we
something
get
I
like some Rick and Morty animation on that? Him just like ripping and tearing the tree apart and then grabs the kid and drops. Don't worry, kid.
Even better,
I got you.
he grabs the tree like Mr. Incredible and the cat, and he's like,
Come on down.
That's a deleted scene.
Calm down, no.
And the thing flying up in the sky was actually him throwing it. It wasn't going through the tornado.
Yep.
Through it.
So, I tend to like creepy, rotting corpses, those sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
So this film has all of the kind of the paranormal activity stuff, floating stuff. Oh, the stuff moved. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason the movie's rated R, even though it's just like a piece of toast being
Right.
A piece of toast being toasted,
Yeah.
Being buttered.
But it also has these, at the very end, these graves erupt and these coffins just, and I wonder how they did all of that.
Yeah.
Because the logistics of trying to, especially in the pool scene,
Yeah.
trying to erupt a coffin out of the ground, make it convincingly look like it's erupting from the grave,
Mm-hmm.
and then to have the logistics of opening the coffin and having these corpses falling out all over
Mm-hmm.
the place.
Falling on a specific place.
Yeah.
Too, because once gravity takes the wheel, you never know.
Yeah.
Right,
Especially when you're not using props, you're using actual human skeletons.
right, and the thing is,
Permission to do that.
so they
Just
got,
them.
yeah,
Money.
they couldn't
How big is your
do
budget?
the plastic skeletons because it's too expensive. So they had, people donate their bodies to science, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's leftovers, skeletons or whatever. What they
I'm
did,
donating mine to Spielberg.
yeah,
He's probably been dead before me.
Yeah.
yeah, he won't be able to use you. We'll use him. Though.
How does it feel, Spielberg?
It will be like, how did you think of the film? I love that. But what they did is they took the skeletons. Obviously, they didn't have anything left, so they just added makeup to make them look like they're rotting and gave them hair and costumes and things like that.
The one that flew at the car.
Yeah.
That one looked good.
That one was nasty.
Yeah, that's
I
a hero shot.
like the one where with the hair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Super Saiyan.
Yeah, that part. The first time I saw that part, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is really creepy." Like if I was a kid, that would have scared the dickens out of me.
Stefan's like having flashbacks of Bilbo.
Yeah, took me years to get used to that. That's an effective.
I'm still not used to it.
Hold my hand. But overall, this film has it's a good gateway horror film. It's kind of like what Jed said about Monster House. It gets you.
Dude, Monster House. Oh my goodness.
That one's funny too, but
we should talk about that one Halloween.
yeah, it's a good one too. But it gets you involved in some of the ideas, some of the things that horror can do, whether it's floating things or corpses erupting from the ground, evil spirits, that sort of thing. So overall, it's a pretty effective horror film. I like it a lot. I like that it's PG. I like that they push the boundaries. And that's kind of what I would want from a Haunted Mansion film. I'm a big Haunted Mansion nut. But I don't think we will get that. I think we're going to get something lame like Jungle Cruise, a bunch of CG ghosts and crap. But, it's a different discussion. Overall, I think we all like Poltergeist pretty well.
I think this would be the right approach to take with a Haunted Mansion movie. Not necessarily in story, but in tone, with effects, with all that. I think that you hit the nail right on the head there. This isn't my absolute favorite horror movie of all time, but as a bit of a connoisseur of horror, I think it's pretty amazing that this PG movie is probably in my top 10. This is It's scary, but never too scary. It never sacrifices the story for the sake of a quick jump scare. The characters are engaging. The characters, they all make sense. It's never just like, oh, I don't get that, or oh, I don't really care about that one. It's just either they don't have that big role, so it doesn't matter, or if they do have a big role, you care about them. Like that little girl. Oh my gosh, they found a wonderful child actress who is scary without you being scared of her. You're scared of what happens to her. She's vulnerable. She's funny. She was great. So yeah, overall, they're here, iconic. So yeah, great movie, great horror movie for kids and adults alike. I love it. What do you think?
I really enjoyed the consistency of the film. So like one of the things that I noticed was that each of the creatures or beings that appear, like the CG is not perfect on all of them.
Yeah, some of the CG hasn't aged.
Some of the special effects, like even the practical effects, they feel a little bit weak. And like you said, it's a PG movie. They went for a very simple approach to doing it with, it just looks like somebody took a bath in strawberry jelly. But there is a lot of consistency throughout it. They're all things that are associated with death and decay. It's very consistent. I like that. It keeps the whole story together about what the horror element is. It's all about death.
Nothing feels out of place. Robert, your final thoughts on it?
It's funny because thinking about the CG doesn't hold up to today's standard. But if you look back during that time, CG really wasn't that bad.
Well,
because for example, the lamp, when they opened the door and the lamp was like screwing itself together.
Yeah, some of that compositing.
Yeah, that's something that Jen and I have been working on too. In our first rough draft, in a sense, you can see the quotation marks for what I'm doing.
Yeah,
there you go. Jez, my step.
I'll be your hands.
You'll be my hands. Now bring out the first. So we did kind of our own little thing. Like I threw a stool with one of the
with magic,
we did with magic. And I'm may or may not be plugging in a video coming out sometime, hopefully in July. So subscribe for that. Anywho, but that shot that they did with the lamp and everything floating around during that time, that was it was starting up kind of new, and it was pretty good for what they were able to do. Not the best,
right?
But pretty good for what they did.
No, I compare it to like people landed on the moon using computers that were a million times bigger than this and a million times weaker than this. People use these today to look at cat videos and throw birds at pigs. And yet we carry them in our pockets. So Robert and I, with minimal to no experience in CGI, all being self-taught, were able to do the same things that they were in this movie and about the same quality. But they were using so much worse tools. So the fact that they pulled it off at all is impressive.
Exactly.
I hesitate to say CG was used in this film.
Was it drawn in frame by frame?
I imagine
that'd be even more impressive.
You think about the Ark scenes in Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is a year later.
Yeah.
And CG, it was used here and there. Like
I didn't charge that light. Oops, I thought I did.
It's a warning sign telling us to go away.
Yeah, the Poltergeist.
Turn the light, Stephen!
There is no light, Robert.
No, this light.
Oh, that light. Because there's. I don't think there was CG in this film. We keep saying CG, but I don't think there was.
When the objects were spinning around in the room, that was blue screen and compositing in.
Right.
But okay, yeah. See, it looks so 3D.
Right.
But compositing does do that. Yes.
But I mean, like the lady coming down the stairs, or all the various lights, the bilocation as the stuff are falling through the ceiling.
Generated from a computer.
Yeah, I like that. No, I was specifically thinking the lamp in that room.
Yeah.
Right. That one is probably the one that sticks out like a sore thumb to me, or like the compass, as in the needle and the pen. That one was like, that one didn't look very good. But
well, no, the reason why I pointed out is because that was the closest thing to kind of what we were doing.
Yeah.
Because it looked 3D. I didn't realize it was a blue screen composition shot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it a blue screen shot though? Because the people are always in the background. It could have been a totally practical effect.
You think they just took out the wires? Because most of the objects in that scene, at least when the closet or when they first open up the door, the light isn't interacting with it right. I don't think those objects were in the room at the time. Now the next shot where it's showing them and things are passing in front of between them and the camera, instead of over their shoulder.
It looks more
those things,
real.
Yeah, those things could have been in the room.
Yeah.
I think that was done.
The lamp shot where the lamp came in and then it screwed on, turned on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That I can imagine that being done
in camera
via blue screen.
Because
it wouldn't be that hard to have their reaction and then just a chroma key over the lamp right in front of that video.
Right. So it'd be a process, but it's possible.
Yeah. That'd be kind of fun. Let us know if you want us to look up.
Like have us try and make like a movie using a bunch of old time effects. That'd be fun.
I'm not drawing anything yet, but I'll be down to try the green screen special effects stuff.
Yeah.
Because that skeleton hand that comes out in the very beginning, I think that one's obviously drawn on. It's kind of like the lightning effect from Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those wispy effects, like the that looks a lot like Raiders of the Lost Ark to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the tornado. The tornado was definitely.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that looked very Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think you can really tell when it is CG. Like in the Black Cauldron, they used CG, and that was in the 80s as well.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Great Mouse Detective, the wonderful clock scene.
Yeah.
That was early CG. And other things like that. Young Sherlock had the first CG character, the glass knight.
Was that 86, 87?
I think so. Yeah.
So CG was around then, but it was very basic.
It was primitive back then. George Lucas probably owned Apple at that point. So
yeah.
It was very much in its early years.
Well, Pixar before he sold it to
yeah,
Apple.
right, not Apple. Pixar.
Yeah.
I was like, when did he own Apple?
No.
George Lucas founded Pixar, and then he sold it to Apple, who then had to be its own thing, and then it was bought by Disney.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pixar.
It used to just collaborate with Disney, and then
no one
Disney
escapes
bought
Disney.
It. All right. Yeah.
DreamWorks is like sitting there holding their Shrek bottle.
Right?
Please no, not the mouse.
All right. Well, I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts about Poltergeist. Next week, we're actually going to be covering what today was the 40th anniversary of. We're going to be talking about an alien that some people believe may have been responsible for the failure of the next two movies we're talking about. Because out of all these historic, wonderful movies we're talking about this month, some of them bombed and some of them bombed hard. This next movie may have been the reason for that. So I don't know. We'll find out. Yeah, Seven's giving you a little hint here. Okay, so with all that being said, Robert, where can we be found?
You can find us at Twitter @ofcinematics, here on YouTube and Anchor.fm. If you want to be so kind and help us be able to get better equipment, you can subscribe $4.99 a month on Anchor. And you can find us here, 7:30-ish.
Subscribe, like the video. If you've seen Poltergeist, tell us what you think of it. And if not, please go watch it and make sure to watch the original 1982 one, not the terrible Sam Rockwell remake. I love how, just on a side note, in it, it's not, it's an Indian burial ground in that one, right? And the original, this 1982 one, there's literally a person who said, what? It's not like we built this on an ancient tribal Indian burial ground.
Right. Yeah, the irony.
Yeah.
You win!
It's terrible when the original is already making fun of the remake.
So are there Native Americans haunting them?
Yeah.
I'm not going to crack those jokes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not an improvement, I gather.
No. Like, out of all the horror remakes out there, it's not the worst. It's not terrible, but it's pretty bad.
Well,
so
when the original is this good, you can easily mess it up.
Yeah. So just go watch the original if you haven't. It's a lot of fun. The whole family can watch it. Some people might need to cover their eyes once or twice, but it's never too bad. It's good gateway horror.
All right. We'll see you guys next week on Saturday at 7:30.
Take care.